Okay, so this last one is actually one of my songs, but it's kind of the only one of my songs that is really a poem in and of itself and can really stand alone as just a poem. And it's called Optimist Avenue, The Fall. And I actually have the song coming out as my next single, too. Let there be peace in the fall and all time. I see prisoners knocking, people talking, all the slaughtering of these people here. I see blues and gloomy views sewing up all over the place. Let us help the human race. I know sometimes it seems like you have to look inside to see the good that is there. Because it seems like the world's all blackness when it's really not. There is a light, crystal clear. I see prisoners knocking, people talking, all the slaughtering of these people here. I see blues and gloomy views sewing up all over the place. Let us help the human race. I know sometimes it seems like you have to look inside to see the good that is there. Because it seems like the world's all blackness when it's really not. There is a light, shining crystal clear. So that's Optimist. So I'm going to talk through these a little bit. So I guess first up we have Sorry for the Genocide. It's a poem I wrote in 2018, like I said, and yeah, it came from kind of a place in my life where I was writing about a lot of native stuff, a lot of native values and such, which is still something I do, but not quite to the same extent as I used to. And Sorry for the Genocide is basically supposed to be kind of like a sarcastic apology from the colonists of the United States, which is something that never actually happened. And it's basically supposed to come across as sarcastic. It's wistful thinking. You know, native people, we wish that the colonizers would just apologize for everything that happened, just like the Germans did and just like the French did. There's that illusion in there. But that never actually happened. So Sorry for the Genocide is imagining that apology in kind of a sarcastic, sassy, kind of witty way. And in the end, it shifts. Where, you know, at the beginning it seems like it's supposed to be sincere. And then at the end, you find out it's not. And it's actually kind of supposed to stab you in the back that way. Because I feel like if the colonizers were to apologize, they would apologize very soullessly because... because they don't really mean it. They don't really care about us at all. So there's that. And then Apology Accepted, I wrote 2022. Wrote it for my creative writing class, and it was actually, when I first wrote it, I immediately kind of sensed the automatic similarity to Sorry for the Genocide. So Apology Accepted is kind of an answer to Sorry for the Genocide. And yeah, it's funny because the title is different than what you think it is. You know, it starts out seeming like, the fact is that I have the title Apology Accepted as an actual response to Sorry for the Genocide. And, the last line of Sorry for the Genocide is, Sorry for the Genocide, we realize what we've done. So then Apology Accepted is the first thing you see. So it's kind of supposed to be a little bit of a weird, response to Sorry for the Genocide. So, both of these pieces are very much twin pieces. But, yeah, once again, it's not, it's interesting because it seems like it would be a direct response. But it kind of is, kind of isn't. It's my perspective, not the colonizer's perspective. So it's the perspective of a native. So in that sense, it is a response. Perspective of the colonizers versus perspective of the native. So in that sense, it is a response, but it's not a response in the sense that it's not, because Sorry for the Genocide is very much like apologizing for everything that happened. And Apology Accepted is more just me apologizing on behalf of humanity, and not a direct response to the apology from the colonizers, if that makes sense. So, it's more just me apologizing on behalf of the colonizers again, but also just kind of on behalf of humanity. And it's kind of a broader apology, apologizing for like a lot of things, mainly humanity, but also just some random things in the middle of that. So it's a lot more of a broad apology versus Sorry for the Genocide, which is very focused and very much, okay, this is about colonialism, whereas Apology Accepted is not so much just about colonialism. That's how I would basically describe those. But there's like some allusions in there to very heavy stuff, and then also just kind of random stuff like knowing where bongos come from, which is something that actually happened to me recently, or saying sorry like a Canadian, which is also just really random, something that people have told me I do. So anyway, those are those. And then also next we have Random Lines of Furnace. I also wrote this for that same class, 2022, this last quarter, at UCSC, and yeah, it was. It's really inspired by a lot of the writers that I kind of read in that class. Very just random writing, uh, trickling. Random lines is really trickling a lot of different thoughts, of things in my life and combining that with just like random poetic sounding phrases. And there's a lot of allusions though to like people in my life, stories in my life. Yeah, just like different things. Pop culture celebrities that I'm into, that I've been exposed to, things like that. But it's really just a random mix of different things, and it's supposed to make you laugh, and it's supposed to also make you think. There's a whole other style of writing where it's really just focused on just having your hand move on the page rather than actually like creating ideas that are super coherent. I do feel like the whole in-depth thing of, oh, you have to have this really deep argument and meaning with every single thing you write, for me gets a little bit overdone, and I'm not the biggest fan of that, as much as I used to be. And when I look back on a lot of my older writing, it definitely does. Like, it's very obvious that I was very much into like always having a deeper meaning behind everything. And now I'm starting to not really be into that as much. It really depends on what it is. I still like doing that with songs, but even with songs, there's a fine line there. Like, I like just sometimes writing and just having it be what's on the page, and like Random Lines of Furnace is a practice of doing that, where I'm just really writing, just kind of letting my pen move and just having fun with putting shit together that doesn't make any sense, and just trying to be funny. And people who are very like pop culture educated will recognize some of these like allusions and stuff like that. And it's just funny. And I think being funny in writing for the sake of just being funny, I think is very much underrated these days. Because I think a lot of people just want to have like the deeper meaning of everything. And for me, that gets a little bit too over analytical in my opinion. I feel like sometimes it's nice to just let loose and just write. And that's basically what Random Lines of Furnace is trying to do. And then lastly, Optimist. It's a song I wrote. I had the chord progression in 2018, and then I wrote the lyrics to the song late last year. I actually wrote it for my band, and then I ended up taking it on as a solo project. The lyrics it's really, the song is about just thinking about all the shit that goes down in the world. When I wrote the lyrics, I was thinking about a lot of the political stuff that's been happening over the last several years and continues to happen. And there's like very subtle allusions to that in the lyrics. But it's basically just the general prospect of let there be peace, and just the simple feeling of letting there be peace. And the title was inspired by my bandmate, actually, who writes a lot of like really unique song titles. And I was trying to do that with Optimist Avenue. It just kind of came to me one time when I felt super inspired, and it just kind of came to me. And The Fall is actually one of my favorite songs by one of my favorite a cappella bands called the House Jacks. They have a song called The Fall. So I put that in there because one of the lyrics in the song happened to be The Fall. And I think I was subconsciously thinking about the House Jacks song The Fall. So then I decided to put that in the title. First of all, not only because it does fit as kind of part of the theme in the lyric, but also because it's a nice little nod to the House Jacks song, which is something that a lot of people don't know about that title. But yeah, I mean, there's some references in here like I could talk about, like I see prisoners knocking, people talking, all the slaughtering these people here. That's thinking about like the kids that were kidnapped, put into cages, you know, also just the boarding schools, native boarding schools, kids being locked up, slaughtering of these people here, the Holocaust, obviously, you know, things like that. I know sometimes seems like you have to look inside. That line, I actually kind of was subconsciously thinking about Eminem Mockingbird. There's a line in that song where he's saying, I know sometimes things may not always make sense to you right now, and he's talking to his kid in that song. So the line, I know sometimes it seems like you have to look inside. It's kind of like starting with those same lines was purposely a nod to Eminem. It's just kind of a nice little way. So yeah, that's that.